Hello and welcome to the second recording, which is for nominations only, and it's with regards to nominations at the local government elections on Thursday, the 5th of May. My name's Rebecca, and as I've mentioned, this presentation is with regards to nominations. And one of the key purposes of the presentation is to highlight some of the changes that have been introduced in the Local Elections Principal Areas Wales Rules 2021. It's a step-by-step guide of how to complete the nomination paper and also some key pointers in terms of doing this electronically for the first time. There's some key dates for consideration that are obviously key for the nomination period. We'll be publishing the notice of election on Friday, the 18th of March, and this means that we start the election period. And we'll be able to accept nomination papers from Monday, the 21st of March, through to 4 p.m. on Tuesday, the 5th of April 22. If you'd like to submit your nomination paper by hand, we can do that during weekdays between 9 a.m. and 4 a.m. at County Hall. And we do ask candidates or agents to book an appointment prior to coming to County Hall, just so that we can manage the number coming through. There is an option this year to submit your nomination paper electronically, and I'll provide further information on this shortly. I've highlighted in red here that the close of nominations is 4 p.m. on Friday, the 5th of April. And this is really important because any nominations received after this date or time will be invalid and won't be included in the local government elections. The same date and time is applicable if anybody wishes to withdraw their nomination form. In addition, you need to appoint an election agent, so that paperwork also needs to be with us by 4 p.m. on the 5th of April. If we don't receive this paperwork, we will automatically appoint the candidate as their own election agent. Following on from this then, on Wednesday the 6th of April, we'll publish a statement of persons nominated. These will be available on our website and they'll detail who's standing in which ward for Cardiff. Later on in the month then, we'll also publish the notice of poll and full list of situation of polling stations. So now we'll go through a step-by-step guide of how to complete the nomination paper, some of which will be really familiar to you if you've completed papers previously, and some elements of it are new for this election. So section 1, details of the election, straightforward here in terms of Cardiff being the county. Enter the electoral ward that you wish to stand in and enter the date of the election being the 5th of May. You'll notice then, obviously the section 2 will ask for your personal details. So with regards to your personal details, please make sure that you put your full name in full and don't use any suffixes or prefixes, as these won't be included. You may, and it's optional, add a commonly used name. It's important that the commonly used name is different in respect to your actual name. And there are some notes on this with regards to what is or isn't acceptable. And finally, on this part, the candidate will need to add their date of birth. Section 3 then is the description. This is slightly different this year. So as previously, if you're a party candidate, you can use a party's name or description, and we'll cross-reference these with what's registered with the Electoral Commission. For this year, if the registered party name does not include Wales or Cymraeg, for example, you can also add that to the description. Other options include the use of the word independent, or you may leave the description blank. The key information here is that whatever is entered into this box will appear as your description on the ballot paper. So please make sure that it's completed accurately, and that if you are using a political party description, that you have permission to do so. Again, section 4, this is new. So this is the statement of party membership, and all candidates do need to complete this. So on section 4, you either indicate that you have been a member of a registered political party, and that's either a tick box for yes or no. And if you have, there's a section at the bottom here where you fill in details of each of the registered political parties you've been a member of, and then also the dates to and from. As I mentioned, all candidates do need to complete this statement now. The declaration then is obviously the important part of the nomination paper, where you are signing as a candidate to confirm that you are eligible to stand. So please complete this in terms of crossing through any that you do not qualify and ticking and filling in any details of the ones that you do complete. You need to sign this, but please ensure that the date of signature is within 1 month of the deadline date for nominations, which is the 5th of April. If you are completing and returning your nomination paper electronically, your signature here can be an electronic signature. For example, it can take the form of a typed name. And I've put the basic qualification rules here in terms of being a British citizen, eligible Commonwealth, citizen of any member state of the European Union, or qualifying foreign citizen with leave, not required leave, or to enter or remain in the United Kingdom. You've also got to be 18 years or older, and that's from the date that you're nominating yourself as opposed to poll day. And again, you must meet at least one of the listed criteria, A, B, C or D here, and do not sign the form if you are disqualified to stand. So there's the pointers with regards to qualifications, and we would also always recommend for candidates and agents to refer to the Electoral Commission guidance if they're not sure on any qualifications or disqualifications. In terms of disqualifications, there are a number and it is complex, so we would recommend, if you are unsure, to seek your own legal advice. The returning officer and the staff here at Electoral Services aren't able to offer advice on if you qualify or disqualify as a candidate. So again, we need to obviously ensure that you seek your own legal advice when completing the paperwork. Section 6 then is the candidate's signature to the nomination paper, and this must be signed by a witness. Please make sure that the witness is the same person who signs the home address form. Again, if you are submitting these electronically, an electronic signature is permitted for both the candidate and the witness. One thing we would highlight here is that previously, if you've been involved with nomination papers, you would have been aware that we would have perhaps asked for 10 subscribers, and they would have had some recommendations in terms of where living in the particular ward or being a registered elector. With regards to the witness here, there are no requirements at all, so there's no legislation which states any restrictions for the witness. So it's slightly different from 2017. Moving on now to the home address form. Again, this is different and this is new in terms of new legislation. So the home address form does need to be completed by 4 p.m. on Tuesday, the 5th of April. And you'll notice from the home address form, it's asking for your full name and details, and it looks at the qualifying address that you've declared on your nomination paper. The important thing to remember on here is if you don't want your home address form to be made public, so it won't be printed on the ballot paper and it won't be printed on the statement of persons nominated, please ensure that you complete part 2 of the home address form, and we'll come on to those next. So part 1B, home address form, this section is very similar to the first section of the nomination form, where you fill in the county, the electoral ward and the date of election. And you'll see here then that you add your full name and your home address, including any commonly used names. So again, this is going to match the first page of the nomination form. Again, please don't use any abbreviations and make sure that you put your home address in full. On here then, it will move on to the different options in terms of qualifications. And when you go through options A, B, C or D, please make sure that you put the address which is applicable under the relevant option which applies to yourself. And finally then, you can put on part 2 whether or not you wish for your home address to be made public. If this is completed with your papers, we will then withhold your home address from the ballot paper and the statement of persons nominated. So on the ballot paper, it will print address in Cardiff, for example. Again, this needs to be signed as you're consenting for us to do that on the paperwork. And finally, the witness will also need to sign this with details of their name, signature and home address. But this information isn't shared. And again, there are no restrictions in terms of the witness, but they do need to be the same person who has witnessed your nomination paper. And again, the signature can be in an electronic format. Moving on now, if you are standing for a political party, please make sure that you've got the certificate of authorization completed. This is normally completed by the nominating officer, and if it's not the nominating officer, it'll be a person who's authorized to act on their behalf. So more often than not, there will be somebody else authorising that paperwork for you. But if it is different to the nominating officer, please ensure that you've provided that extra paperwork to confirm that person can act on their behalf. So the certificate will allow the use of a party name or a particular description. And again, this paperwork needs to be submitted by the 4 p.m. deadline on Tuesday, the 5th of April. So the certificate of authorisation, we provide this within the paperwork of your nomination form. However, we do sometimes receive these in a different form from the political party, so it doesn't necessarily have to be completed on our paperwork. But make sure that obviously all the information that is required is provided to us. And the key thing here, that the description that you wish to have on your ballot paper, on your ballot paper matches your nomination form, and also that it is the registered party name or the registered party description, as we will be cross-referencing that back with the Electoral Commission. As I mentioned earlier, if the person signing the form and approving this is not the nominating officer, we do need to see the paperwork confirming that the person signing has approval to do so, and this is normally a separate letter from the nominating officer. It's very common for political parties to have an emblem printed on their ballot paper. So if you do wish for this to happen, you do need the emblem request form completed, and it's the same date and deadline time of 4 p.m. on the 5th of April. Sometimes we do ask for an electronic version of the emblem, but more often than not, we can obtain this from our software or the Electoral Commission. So the emblem request form again confirms the emblem that you wish to use, and you sign and date this to confirm which of the emblems recorded you wish to be printed on your ballot paper. In terms of election agents, the election agent is the person responsible for the proper management of the campaign, and in particular any financial management in relation to that candidate political party. So all county candidates must have an election agent. So what will happen if we don't receive the paperwork? As I mentioned before, by default, you will become your own agent if no one is appointed. Again, you'll be bored at this date, is the 4 p.m. on Tuesday, the 5th of April 22. So the notification of election agent, if you are appointing someone or you are acting as your own agent, we recommend that you still complete this paperwork. And on here, you can indicate to us if you've appointed an election agent or if you'll be acting as your own agent. If you've appointed someone else, you can fill in their details and obviously sign to confirm that's been agreed. Again, if you are appointing somebody else, that agent can then sign to say that they agree to that appointment. And it's really useful for us to have their contact information to provide key updates relating to the election. If you are acting as your own agent, you need to complete Part B, and the reason for this links to the home address form. So, for example, if there is no election office address, we need to look at a correspondence address for public notices. So again, if we're not printing your home address on the ballot paper or statement of persons nominated, and you are your own agent, we do need a correspondence address or an office address, which will be made public. Again, really useful if we can have contact details and email addresses, as we can keep you up to date with any queries as we go through. If you are standing for more than one political party, so you're a joint candidate, you may use a registered joint description, but it must be supported by the certificate of authorization from each party, and then you must indicate which emblem you wish to use. Some key points in terms of submitting your nomination papers then. So all candidates will need to submit by the 5th of April 4 p.m. the nomination form and the home address form. If you're standing for a political party, you'll also need to submit by the same date and time the certificate of authorization and the party emblem form. Failure to complete or return all the relevant paperwork may obviously invalidate your nomination papers. So a couple of pointers here. Please take care when completing your nomination papers. They are processed in terms of the information that you've completed and provided. So it's imperative that this is done accurately and that it's clear to us the information that should be used. We welcome candidates or agents to have an informal check of your nomination papers, and this basically means we can provide you with any guidance if there are any discrepancies on the paperwork before submitting them formally. And the nomination form and home address form can be delivered by hand or electronically, but please note these are not accepted by post. So just put some pointers if you are submitting your nomination paper electronically, because this is new. You can do this via email, and the email address you need to use is elections@cardiff.gov.uk. We can use this email address for any queries, including informal checks, but I must highlight that if you formally submit a nomination paper and it doesn't go to this email address and it's sent to any other email address, it may be invalid and it may not count towards standing at this election. We would welcome if you are submitting nomination papers for informal checks, in the subject heading to type informal check LGE 22. This just helps us identify the email and obviously what you'd like us to do. And if you're formally submitting your nomination papers, in the subject heading, please type formal nomination submission LGE 22. It's important to recognise when submitting your nomination papers electronically, you may have a sent receipt, but it is only acceptable once we've had that in the office or received that obviously back at our email account here. When we do receive emails, there should be an automated reply confirming receipt of that, but it doesn't confirm that the nomination paper is valid. It only confirms receipt that that email's been received. So until you receive your official letter to say that's been checked and it's a valid nomination paper, the email receipt is just for information only. With regards to other agents that will support your campaign, you can appoint polling agents to attend the polling stations, and these need to be appointed by the 27th of April. You can also appoint count agents to attend the verification and count, and again these need to be completed by the 27th of April. And finally, you can appoint postal vote agents to support or oversee the postal vote opening sessions. As long as we have information of these agents before a postal vote opening session, they may attend. If we change the session date and time, we will give you 48 hours notice of this change. As a candidate, you are entitled to access to the electoral register and absent voting list for your ward, and you can have this once you officially become a candidate. So the earliest is on the 28th of March. If you do wish to have a copy of the electoral register or absent voter list, these requests must be made in writing and to the electoral registration officer. And the paperwork for these is either included in your nomination pack, or you're welcome to ask the office for a copy. I've highlighted in red at the bottom here that if you do have access to the electoral register or absent voting list, that this data can only be used for permitted purposes. So that includes completing the nomination form to help you with your campaign and to check that any donations or loans are permissible. Further information can be found on our dedicated candidate and agent webpage. And also further information and clear guidance is available on the Electoral Commission's website as well. What we will be doing on our candidate and agent webpage is also publishing a step-by-step document which is being shared by the Association of Electoral Administrators. This again will help you as candidates and agents as a step-by-step guide, and it's got some common queries that come through. But as I've mentioned before, if you do have any queries, contact the office and we can go through those with you. I hope the nomination presentation has been informative, and there are two other presentations available to view. The first one being a general information for candidates and agents, and the final one being information on what to expect at the verification and count. Thank you.